Leviticus chapter 3. Leviticus chapter 3, if you look carefully, you would see an interesting parallel to Leviticus chapter 1. When we first started Leviticus chapter 1, you would see a couple of things that we keep reading. Number one is offering, right? Offering. It's karban, or sometimes pronounced as korban, which is the Arabic word as well. The second one that I think I should introduce you is sacrifice. Sacrifice is zevak. Zevak. Okay, two things here. Okay, so let me explain to you what are the similarities to chapter 1. You find that it's about offering, right? You come to God, you bring an offering like a gift, right? An offering is like a gift, a present that you bring as you come to God. The second one that I wanted to point out to you is that this is a sacrifice. Whenever you see the word sacrifice or savak would be that it will involve the killing or slaughtering of an animal. Anytime you see the word sacrifice, it will involve the slaughtering of an animal. Okay? There are no symbolic sacrifices, meaning whenever the Bible talks about sacrifice, one kind, a particular type of animal will be slaughtered. All right. Now, in chapter 1, we talked of a burnt offering. And today in chapter 3, we're talking about a peace offering. The word peace offering comes from the word shalem, which comes from the word shalom, and that is where we get the peace offering. Shalem or shalom comes from the root word. The root word is to make things complete. And when things are complete, then it is a shalom, that it is peace, because there is nothing else that you need to pay for. That is what it means. It's completeness. So shalom is to pay up for completeness. And so a peace offering would be a gift that a person would bring, usually for Thanksgiving, to celebrate that things are now complete. It is now whole. We are now whole with God, right? We don't owe God anything anymore. So that is a peace offering. It is a free will sacrifice. Now, as we go along, you will notice if he offers, now the word offer is also talking about this peace offering when he does it and he picks a herd. Now, in this case, this would be a cattle. A cattle would be it has to be a cow, right? An oxen, a cow, a bull, And in this case, it's different from the burnt offering, because in the burnt offering, you can only offer a male. So one of the good exercise that you can do as a homework is to go back and compare chapter 1 and chapter 3, which we will not do in this class. And so compare the two, because here you could sacrifice a male or a female. In chapter 1, it is only a male, and there is a reason for it, right? And he shall offer it without blemish. The word blemish here, without blemish, is complete. Now, this is important because complete means you are whole. you are sound. You are not blind, right? You are not what call it? It's without spot. Yeah, you're not injured. So the cattle must be complete. It cannot be blind. It cannot be broken leg. It cannot be injured. It cannot have broken nose or whatever. So and this represents completeness, wholesome, unimpaired. This would be like a brand new car, right? It's not a used car that had an accident. One lamp is broken. This is a complete new car. It has no tire puncture. So that is what it means by without blemish when it comes to a cattle. And so what is this supposed to be? You are bringing it into the presence of God before the Lord. In the presence of God before the Lord means in his face, that God can see. That is important. And so this gives us the seriousness, because it's not giving a present to just anyone. You're talking about giving a present to God. And so when you give a present, say to the VVIP, to the Prime Minister, or to the Agong, to a king, you don't give a car that is 20 years old, that has a broken tail light, that has a flat tire, or the engine is not working. You would give him a complete present. That is the attitude that when you come to God and you offer a korban or a karban of an animal sacrifice, and in this case, as a peace offering, a shlamim, you need to bring it whole, because you are bringing to God. So the attitude is important, because it's about God. And so we are coming to God, and it has to have this kind of attitude. And of course, we are also learning that it is God who gives the requirements and the details, because we are coming to him. It is not what we think is good. It is what God says is right. Verse 2, he shall lay his hand on the head of his offering. Laying of hands is a Hebrew practice. It has many meanings. It would be as a representation of himself who is offering. It would be a delegation of authority when you lay hands, when the priest lay hand on the king, right? And so laying on of hands have a few meanings. To delegate authority, or to be a part of, right? Now, he doesn't bring it into the temple. He doesn't bring it into the tabernacle. He brings it to the door. He kills it at the door. Now notice, whenever it's a sacrifice, again, it has to be killed. It's a slaughter of an animal. But it's at the door of the tabernacle of the meeting. And I told you before, this is the tent of appointment. Basically, we are told that this tabernacle, or the tent of appointment, is where you meet God. And so you don't bring it to anywhere and say, okay, that's where I can just stroll by the roadside and say God will see it. So it is a very specific, a very intentional way of an offer that you are actually making to God. And so you're seeing God before his face in the tent that he has appointed, that he will meet man. And that kind of an attitude is what the Bible. And when you kill it at the door, Aaron's sons, the priests, shall sprinkle the blood all around the altar, which is similar to chapter 1. Verse 3, then he shall offer from the sacrifice of the peace offering an offering made by fire to the Lord. Now, the burnt offering is also an offering of fire. The peace offering is also an offering by fire, that it will be burnt. Now, notice this. The fat that covers the entrails. This one, I think we need to talk about. This is the fat that covers the insides, right? The insides, the innards. The innards. And all the fat that is on the entrails, right? It's all about the fat now. The fat that covers and the fat that is on it. Verse 4. And then 2 kidneys. Verse 4 is about the 2 kidneys. And the fat that is on them by the flanks, by the side of it. Right? And the fatty lobe, the fat that is attached to the liver. Okay. And the liver itself is also considered above, attached to the liver, above the, okay, this word is not above the kidney, shall be turned aside, taken out from the animal. Okay, the word remove of the animal. I just want to point your attention to the fact God has made specific designation to the fat. Okay, so and 2 organs here, 3 organs: the entrails, the kidneys, and the liver. 3, still doing my research. One of the questions that I had is why specifically these few parts? Now, one thing I do realize that the Bible talks about kidneys. Kidneys is actually the seat of emotion. And every part of the body has a particular representation. So one of these days, we will deal with that topic. Now, more importantly is the fat is taken out. The 3 organs are taken out. And Aaron's sons shall burn it on the altar upon the burnt sacrifice, which is on the wood. Now, the word wood is actually tree. It is the same word that is used for the book of Esther about gallows. And so what I think this is saying is, when they bring in and set the altar on fire, this is not what we see or what we do today as firewood, that you take a big tree and you chop it down into small little pieces, and then you use that as firewood. The size of the altar is big, and I would figure that they call it the tree, is because they actually chop down the whole tree and put it on the altar and use that as wood to burn. And hence, they call it tree that is on the fire. As an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to the Lord, just as in chapter 1. And remember where the sweet aroma is coming from? The fat. Now we shall look at verse 6. Now the verse 6 is about the same, but it talks about the flock. In this case, when he says it's about the flock, this would be the smaller animals. The smaller animals usually would be the sheep, the goat, right? And that would be the type of animals for this second type of korban, right? An offering. Also a sacrifice as a peace offering to the Lord, whether male or female, without blemish. So I just think that we should notice, regardless of the animal, it must be a free will. You come and you do it on your own, but it must be complete. because the attitude is you're making it towards God. You just don't take anything from the flock. And that would also refer back to Cain and Abel when they made an offering to God. And Cain and took from his the fruit of the ground, and Abel took from his flock. But when he took from his flock, he took the best. And so that would be the attitude, right? Verse 7, if he offers this type of a lamb as his offering, he shall offer it or korban it before the Lord in his face. He shall lay his hand on the head. And in this case, a peace offering would say that, well, I am symbolizing it as complete. And then he shall kill it before the tabernacle of the meeting. Same thing, before the tabernacle of meeting means outside at the door. And then Aaron's sons, the priest, will sprinkle the blood all around the altar. And then from the offering of the sacrifice of the peace offering there of the sheep or the goat should be made by fire to the Lord. Notice again, the fat and the whole fat tail shall be removed close to the backbone. Now, in this case, it's still talking about the fat, but it's a different part because it's a different type of animal. And the fat that covers the entrails, the fat is on the entrails, the two kidneys and the fat that is by them beside it, and the fatty lobe that's attached to the liver above the kidney, he shall remove. And the priest shall burn them as food, an offering made by fire to the Lord. So it's like consuming, right? The idea of food in verse 11 is like bread. And the fire that is burning it appears as if it was eating, right? The fire is eating the offering. And so again, it's very much about the fat, right? The fatty lobe. And that's where we are in verse 6 to verse 9. Now in verse 12, talks very specifically of a particular animal. This animal would be a female goat. This goat is actually an etz. It's a female goat, right? Just now was a sheep type of animal. They may have different types of goat, but this is a particular she goat. And in this case, offered it before the Lord, lay hand on its head, kill it outside the tabernacle of the meeting. The sons of Aaron sprinkle the blood all around the altar, offer it from the offering as an offering made by fire to the Lord. The fat that covers the entrails, the fat that is on the entrails, two kidneys, the fat that is on them by the side, the fatty lobe attached to the liver above the kidney, he shall take it out. Notice we're still talking about the fat cannot be burned. It will take too long. So God wants the fat out and is burned together with the meat. So in verse 16, the priest shall burn them before the altar as food, made by fire, a sweet aroma. And notice this, all the fat is the Lord, belongs to God, basically. Now this is important. I need you to remember this. All the fat belongs to God. And we're talking about the fat that is in the sacrifice, that is part of the offering. So in these 3 segments talks about very specific animals as a peace offering, okay, as an offering that's given to God in a very specific way. God wants the of the animals. And now in chapter 3, it's specific. Now God says in the peace offering team. Now the word here in terms of perpetual, right here, perpetual. The word is olam. I'll just give you the words first, and then we will talk about the meaning. The second one is statutes. The word statutes is hukah. Let me write it down. That is hukah. Hukah, right? The statutes. Then throughout your generations, that's another word that we need to pay attention to. But I don't think we need to worry too much about the word. And let's tackle the words now. The word olam, and that's translated as perpetual, is also translated as eternal. It's translated also means, but in this case, it doesn't mean world. It just means this a picture. The picture is this. That is the picture. Olam gives us a picture that I think we need to understand the meaning. It gives us the understanding of beyond the horizon. So what you see is this would be the horizon. And the circle there could be the setting sun or the rising sun, but it's far out in the horizon. It is the place where things disappear. Things disappear, right? So it's beyond the horizon or beyond the vision, right? Or beyond time, or if you like the word time, it takes a long time to get there. So whenever we talk about olam, I don't particularly like the word eternal or forever, right? Because it doesn't give us the right understanding. So when it says that the statute is perpetual or the statute is forever, forever means it doesn't end. But the Bible in the Hebrew terms is not saying that this statute will never end. The statute was given, but the statute is for a long time. So a long time is ever, not eternal. For a long time. How long is it to get to the horizon? Time. The other meaning for olam is this. What is behind the horizon? Behind the horizon, right? We don't know. So you see, the Hebrew people are all very practical and pragmatic people. What is behind that you can't see? We don't know. And so olam also means secret. Secret. Because I don't know what's there. So it's a secret. So it's a long time to get there. Behind the horizon, it's a secret. So when that is perpetual, it means will be there a long generations, places you dwell, and you need to be able to do that. So when they come into God taking them the land for time. Hookah means ordinance. It is a regulation. It also means limits. So in verse 17, the last phrase is important. Let me just highlight this. God has said that based on this perpetual statute, that you shall eat neither fat nor blood. Now, for many people, when you read this, it's like, oh, you mean we cannot eat blood? Yes. You mean we cannot eat fat? And yes. But in this case, it is very specific to the context of the sacrifice. One of the things that we are not aware of is that the sacrifice, as much as has been offered to God, they actually eat. They eat their sacrifice. But in the eating of the sacrifice, God says two things. One is the blood that you have spilled around the altar, you cannot eat, because there will be balance of the blood. The second thing that God has said was, God says, all the fat is the Lord's. In the sacrifice itself, the fat also you cannot eat, because God has said that I want it for myself. So it was burned on the altar. After the fat is burned, of course, the Chinese would love it, because it's like, you know, the I don't know what you call it, the jiu zha like that, huh? The fat that is burned, it is crispy, right? And so we love it. And God says you are not to eat it. What can you eat? The meat. That's what you eat. In that sacrifice you offer, you can eat that offering. But there is parts of it that has been burned, and God says, that's it. The fat is the Lord's. Don't touch. The blood, pour away, and later we will see, pour to the ground. And so this is very much to tell them, make sure these things are there. Now, as we come to a close of chapter 3, what can we learn from it? It's the same idea. God continuously wants them to realize, hey, you're coming to see me. You're giving me an offering. And I'm now telling you the attitude that we should have towards God. God's meeting God's rules, right? You're meeting God. He is the king. So even when we see the king, you can't do anything you want. So God very specifically tells them this is a statute, and it will be for a long time, right? And so with this, we come to the end of chapter 3. Okay? And we'll continue tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, thank Pastor.
All right.